Jimmy Livingston was born without an immune system, a rare condition that made even the smallest germ life-threatening. To survive, he had to live inside a plastic bubble, a sterile environment that shielded him from harm. Until he was 4, Jimmy lived away from his parents in a medical facility. When his mother, Mrs. Livingston, finally brought him home, she built a large bubble in his room so he could walk around safely. His bubble came equipped with protruding gloves, which his parents used to touch him. Every toy, piece of furniture, and even his food had to pass through a decontamination system before it entered his bubble. Mrs. Livingston was overprotective to an extreme degree. She never wanted Jimmy to leave the bubble and controlled every aspect of his life. She told him bedtime stories where the hero or princess always died tragically after leaving a safe space. She insisted that only one TV channel and one magazine were safe enough for Jimmy, so he grew up believing they were the only ones in existence. She also indoctrinated Jimmy with her rigid beliefs, including her extreme nationalist views. Jimmy, having no exposure to the outside world, accepted everything she said as the absolute truth. Though he tried to live a normal life within the bubble, Jimmy became a target for ridicule. Neighborhood kids frequently mocked him by wrapping themselves in plastic and laughing outside his window. Mrs. Livingston would chase them away, but the isolation and bullying left Jimmy lonely and longing for connection. At 16, Jimmy's life changed when a girl named Chloe moved into the neighborhood. Watching her through his window, Jimmy was immediately drawn to her, though he didn't understand what he was feeling. Chloe noticed him too, and over time, they exchanged glances. Mrs. Livingston quickly noticed Jimmy's growing interest and tried to squash it by telling him a story about a boy who died after falling for the next-door whore. But Jimmy couldn't help himself, and continued watching Chloe from afar. One day, Chloe knocked on the Livingstons' door, and Mr. Livingston let her in. Intrigued by the tubes running through the house, Chloe followed them to Jimmy's room. Seeing her inside, Jimmy froze with nervousness. Chloe was the first person besides his parents he had ever interacted with. Chloe broke the ice by complimenting his guitar, and Jimmy used the gloves in his bubble to try teaching her to play. Midway, his nervousness got the better of him, and he began reciting the Pledge of Allegiance, much to Chloe's amusement. From that day on, Chloe visited Jimmy regularly. They talked, laughed, and bonded over small things. For his birthday, Chloe gave him a guinea pig inside a ball, a gift that delighted him. Despite Mrs. Livingston's disapproval, the friendship grew stronger. Jimmy experienced joy and companionship for the first time in his life. But Jimmy's happiness was short-lived. One day, Chloe told him that her boyfriend, Mark, had proposed, and they were getting married at Niagara Falls that weekend. Heartbroken, Jimmy hid his feelings and gave her back the guinea pig, asking her to leave. Chloe left in tears, but she left Jimmy a gift in his decontamination tube. When he finally opened it, he found a snow globe with "I love you" written inside. Overwhelmed, Jimmy realized he couldn't let Chloe marry Mark. Determined, Jimmy built a portable bubble suit so he could leave his house safely. Sneaking out at night, he experienced the outside world for the first time, running, feeling the wind, and tasting freedom. At the bus station, Jimmy realized he had no money. In his attempt to cross the road, he was hit by a bus, but his bubble saved him. The passengers, who were part of a religious cult, gave him a ride, only to throw him out when he pointed out their absurd beliefs. Jimmy then met a biker named Slim, who agreed to give him a ride after hearing about his mission to stop Chloe's wedding. Slim shared a story about his lost love, Wildfire, encouraging Jimmy not to give up. Back home, Mrs. Livingston discovered Jimmy was missing. She and Mr. Livingston set out to find him, furious and frantic. Meanwhile, Jimmy and Slim stopped in Las Vegas, where Slim got distracted by the nightlife. Jimmy, desperate to stay on schedule, stole a scooter and sped off. Along the way, he encountered his parents, who tried to stop him. During the chase, Jimmy crashed into a train, but ended up bouncing safely aboard. On the train, Jimmy met a group of circus performers, who told him about their abusive boss, Dr. Freak. By accident, Jimmy knocked Dr. Freak over with his bubble, freeing the performers before continuing his journey. At one point, Jimmy encountered Push Pop, a man running a restaurant, but chaos erupted when police officers mistook Jimmy for someone contagious. The commotion caused the restaurant to catch fire, and Push Pop offered Jimmy a ride. The journey took a turn when they hit a cow in the road. Push Pop, who worshipped cows as sacred, became offended by Jimmy's dismissive remarks and abandoned him. Stranded again, Jimmy found a ride with an elderly man named Pippi, who later died at the wheel, leaving Jimmy to crash into a billboard. With time running out, Jimmy called Chloe, but Mark answered and mocked him. saying the wedding was about to start. Jimmy, heartbroken, called his parents to pick him up. On the drive, his father encouraged him not to give up on love, inspiring Jimmy to escape once more. By this time, everyone, Jimmy's parents, the cult, Slim, and the circus performers, was chasing after him. The chaos culminated in a plane runway chase, with Jimmy boarding a small plane piloted by an elderly man. The plane crashed near Niagara Falls, but Jimmy survived thanks to his bubble. Jimmy arrived just as Chloe and Mark were exchanging vows. In a dramatic moment, he ripped open his bubble suit and kissed Chloe, risking his life to confess his love. He immediately collapsed, leaving everyone horrified. Mrs. Livingston arrived, sobbing over her son. Mr. Livingston urged her to reveal the truth. Jimmy had never been sick. She admitted she had lied to keep him safe from the dangers of the world. Jimmy woke up, shocked, but relieved, and forgave his mother. Chloe chose Jimmy, and the two embraced as everyone cheered. Months later, Jimmy and Chloe got married in a ceremony attended by everyone from his journey. In a surprising twist, Mr. Livingston, Mrs. Livingston, and Slim rekindled old feelings and became a happy throuple. Jimmy and Chloe drove off into the sunset, ready to start their new life together outside the bubble. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video. Bye!